Hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my channel. Today in this video, I want to talk about classics. I personally really enjoy reading classics. Some of them are among my all-time favorite books. There are some that I read that I didn't particularly like, but overall, I really enjoy reading them. I know not everyone on BookTube really enjoys classic novels, but I really like to try them out because these are books that are really significant in history and culture, and I definitely think they're worth a try. There are so many classic novels out there that sound interesting to me, and there's so little time to read them all. I feel like when I'm reading a classic, I have to devote a lot of time and attention to reading that book because I want to get the most out of it possible, so it's a little overwhelming when there's so many classics out there that I want to read. So today in this video, I'm going to be discussing the top 10 classics I want and need to read. Obviously, there are way more than 10 classics that I want to read in my lifetime. I just assembled a list of the top 10 ones that I really want to read soon, and some of them I'm kind of ashamed that I haven't read them yet. So these are all books that I want to get to in the near future. However, there are many more classics not on this list that I haven't read and I want to at some point. So starting off with number 10 on this list, this one is a little bit of a cop-out because I'm not picking one specific book. I'm picking books by this specific author. I have read 2 of her books. One of them is one of my all-time favorites. Another one I also really enjoyed. So I want to read every single book she's ever written, and that is Jane Austen. I read Pride and Prejudice for the first time when I was a sophomore in high school, and I just reread it last month. It is one of my all-time favorite books, if not my all-time favorite. I absolutely love that book. I also read Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, and I really enjoyed that one as well. So it's a goal for me that I want to read every book Jane Austen has published. She has so many different books. There's also Emma, Mansfield Park, Northanger Abbey, Persuasion, and I really want to get to all of these at some point because I love Jane Austen's writing. She is super witty and she also has great characters and great romances. So if you haven't read Jane Austen out there, I would really encourage you to give her a try because I think she is spectacular and I want to read every single book she's ever done. Coming in at number 9 is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. I've mentioned in videos before that when I was little, I had a collection of great illustrated classics, which were classic novels that were changed so they were written in a way that a child could understand to make them more accessible for really young children, and they were all accompanied by black and white illustrations. And I had one of Anne of Green Gables, which I did really enjoy. Anne of Green Gables is a children's classic about a young orphan who is adopted into this family, and there's a romance between her and one of her classmates, I believe. So it sounds like a really cute and also accessible classic to read. I know a lot of people on BookTube really do enjoy this, even people who aren't as into classics as some other booktubers. It also was adapted into a TV show on Netflix that is currently airing called Anne with an E, I believe, and I know a lot of people really like that show as well. So I think this could be a book that I could end up really enjoying. At number 8 on this list, I have all of the Sherlock Holmes mysteries by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I think pretty much everyone knows who Sherlock Holmes is. He is a very iconic character that has been in so many different movie and TV franchises over the years. Now, the original series follows Sherlock, who is a genius sleuth, along with his companion Mr. Watson, as they solve mysteries and crimes. And the reason I want to read this is because I love mysteries and I love thrillers and I love suspense. So when you have a classic thriller like the Sherlock Holmes series with such an iconic character that we see still today in adaptations, I feel like that's something that I personally really need to read as a fan of mystery because it's contributed so much to the mystery genre. At number 7 on this list, I have Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. This is a historical novel that takes place during the Civil War, and it follows Scarlett O'Hara, a strong-minded Southern woman, and her romance with the roguish Rhett Butler. Scarlett and Rhett have a very iconic and also tumultuous romantic relationship. Everybody knows the famous movie adaptation that came out, and I do recollect that this book is a chunker. As far as I can remember, it is very long, which intimidates me. But the reason that I want to read this book is because it was one of my late grandmother's all-time favorite. She absolutely loved the movie adaptation as well. And so since she enjoyed it so much, I feel like that's something that I would really want to read one of her favorite books and to bring me closer to her. At number 6 on this list, I have This Side of Paradise by F. Scott Fitzgerald. To be completely honest, I have forgotten what this book is about. I do own a copy of it, which was a gift from my dad, and he bought it for me because The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald is in my top 5 favorite books of all time. I absolutely loved The Great Gatsby when I had to read it in school. It is my favorite book that I ever had to read in school, I think. And that's why he bought me this book. However, even though he bought it for me years ago, haven't read it yet. I did read a couple pages and then I just got distracted, put it down, never picked it back up again. So I really want to read it because I really did enjoy The Great Gatsby. So clearly I like F. Scott Fitzgerald's writing. And also my dad really wants me to finally get to it because it's been at least 3 years since he bought it for me. And I haven't read it yet, which I'm ashamed of. I am really ashamed that I haven't. I'm so sorry, Dad. Okay, so now we are at the top 5, and let me tell you, these books in the top 5 are the ones that I am just the most excited about, the ones that I want to read as soon as possible because I just really wish I had read them already and they just sound so interesting to me. So at number 5 we have Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This has been described as a classic thriller novel, and honestly that was all I needed to hear. I love classics, I love thrillers, so if this is a really iconic thriller novel, that's something that I definitely want to read. Rebecca follows an unnamed female narrator who has a whirlwind romance with this wealthy man, which culminates in them getting married after a very short time of knowing each other, and she goes with her new husband back to his estate. However, at this estate, the presence of her husband's deceased first wife, Rebecca, is still very much felt, and the narrator soon finds herself consumed by the idea of Rebecca. She wants to emulate Rebecca. The staff all talks about Rebecca, and she finds herself obsessed with the idea of being like Rebecca. At number 4, I have The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I've never read anything by Oscar Wilde, but I have seen some of his quotes, and he seems like he is a really good writer, so I definitely am excited to read something that he's written. And The Picture of Dorian Gray sounds very interesting to me. This book follows our title character Dorian Gray, who is a wealthy and self-centered young man who has a portrait of himself painted. He soon finds that this portrait seems to be visibly aging while he stays young forever. This book follows classic themes of good versus evil, the falsity of appearances, and the good and evil in human nature, which sounds very interesting to me. Oscar Wilde also once famously said in Customs that he had nothing to declare but his genius, and that's just iconic. That is totally an author that I can get behind. I need to read something that he's written. Book number 3 on this list, I am actually super excited because I just found out that it's going to be on my syllabus for this semester, so I'm finally going to get to read it. And that book is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Jane Eyre follows our title character who grows up in a really abusive situation. She goes to boarding school where she suffers a lot, and then she eventually becomes a governess for Mr. Edward Rochester and his young ward, and this romantic relationship develops between herself and Mr. Rochester. However, things don't go very smoothly because there are some secrets that Mr. Rochester has been keeping. Now, what really attracted me to wanting to read this novel, what made me want to read it, I mean, is that Jane Eyre isn't a conventional protagonist. She is plain, she's not beautiful, but she is very, very smart, and she knows what she wants. She has confidence in herself, and that's something I really like because she is an unconventional female protagonist and someone that I think is a really good role model for female readers. So that's something that really enticed me to this book, and I am so excited that I'm finally going to get to read it. I have a feeling that I'm really going to love it. My expectations are really high, and I'm very, very excited about it. Now we're going to move from one Bronte sister to another because at number 2 on this list I have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, who was Charlotte Bronte's sister. Now this book follows the romance between a girl named Kathy and a boy named Heathcliff. Kathy grows up in an affluent family, whereas Heathcliff is adopted into her family, and the two of them are childhood sweethearts, but then events bring them apart and they reconnect many years later. Now, I tried to read this book many years ago. I was in middle school, I think, and I just think I was too young then to read it. I started it and I was really confused because this isn't a spoiler, but the book starts with a framing device where there is a man who ends up at the house where Kathy and Heathcliff grow up, and he finds out their story, and the entire story is told via flashbacks. But when I was 12 or 13, I really didn't understand what I was reading. I had no idea what was going on, so I put the book on my shelf and it stayed there ever since. I'm almost 20 now. It is time that I get back to this book. I think I'm definitely now at the right maturity level to read it. There's one quote from this book which I saw many years ago, which I think is so beautiful. Whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same, and I just think that is one of my favorite romance quotes of all time, even though Kathy and Heathcliff's romance is, for lack of a better word, problematic. I hate that word, but it's the only one that's coming to mind right now. I still think it's an iconic piece of literature, and I have high hopes that it's going to be beautifully written, so I'm very excited to read it at some point. I think it's about time because it's been almost 8 years since the first time I tried to read it, and I need to get back to that ASAP. Now, number 1 on this list, which I'm kind of ashamed that I have not read this book, because to go back to my Great Illustrated Classics, I had a Great Illustrated Classic of this book. When I was younger, I read it so many times that the spine physically fell apart. It was my absolute favorite book, and I have not read the full adult version yet. And that book is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Little Women follows this group of 4 sisters, the March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, and it's really a story about family, sisterly love, and these 4 girls growing up, finding romance, finding success, finding individual fulfillment in their various ways. And when I was younger, this was my absolute favorite book. Jo March was my icon. She was my hero because Jo was a woman who would do anything for her family, who was very strong-willed, and she wasn't going to settle. She knew what she wanted, she had dreams, and she was going to achieve them at any cost. She would not let anyone stop her. And she wanted to be a writer. That has been my lifelong dream, so I related to her so much, and I really think that she was someone who I modeled myself after, so I really owe this story a lot because it made me the person who I am. Jo March was a role model for me. She taught me to always follow my dreams, to wait for the man who is going to respect my passions, who's going to respect my career, not to settle for anything less than what I wanted because I deserve that, because you owe it to yourself to go after your dreams. And I can't even thank that story enough for what it did for me. So the fact that I haven't read the full adult version of Little Women makes me sad and ashamed because it meant so much to me, and I just don't know why I haven't gotten to it. I should have gotten to it by this point, but again, I think it's a very long book, so I was intimidated, and I didn't want to read it because it's a huge commitment, but I have to. It's gonna be worth it. It's going to be worth it, and I just have to take the plunge. I have to read Little Women. I have to. Like, I have to. ASAP. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what is your favorite classic, or what is a classic novel that you haven't read yet that you really, really want to. If you read any of the books I mentioned in this video, let me know what you thought about them. Did you like them? Did you dislike them? Were you so-so? And thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. Also, let me know if you want to see me make more videos about classics. I could do my favorite classics I read in school, my least favorite classics. I also thought about maybe doing some more top 10 lists, top 10 authors I need to read, top 10 fantasy novels I want to read, things like that. So let me know if any of those interest you. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, and I hope to see you in the next one.